Welcome back to Stories from the Road. If you came here from the previous parts, I'm glad that you're continuing to watch, and I hope that I'm able to capture your interest as I continue with this series. If you haven't checked those out, I recommend you do, because it's going to give you a better understanding of what I'm about to get into today. I left off part 3, leaving Peter Frank and heading towards Springfield, Missouri. Full disclaimer right now, this isn't going to be an extremely eventful story. The truth is that most of my days on the road weren't eventful. There was a lot of just riding and being by myself for days at a time, and not a whole lot happening except for the fact that I was moving towards Santa Monica, California. If you want something that's action-packed and filled with surprises and interesting things happening around every corner, then I recommend you go watch something fake. But this is the true story of my travels, and I'm telling it exactly how it happened. Now, Springfield, Missouri stands out to me because the culture there was that of friendliness and hospitality. I'm going to use a story of what happened to me just the other night here in Metro Detroit to describe that to you. So, I get out of the house. It's Friday night, I decide I want to go to a bar, possibly meet some people, dance to some music, and just enjoy myself. I don't drink personally, but I still do like to get out, and I like to at least put myself in the position where there's a possibility for social interaction. So I'm sitting at this bar, and two girls come up and sit next to me. They ask me what I'm drinking, and one thing leads to another. We're in conversation. The one girl's being very flirtatious towards me. And at one point in time, she mentioned something, pay for our drinks. I couldn't hear her because it was loud, but I asked them if they danced. The girl says to me, "We don't dance with guys who don't pay for our drinks." And then she turns her back to me. Now I'm going to compare this to my experience in Springfield, Missouri. I'm walking up and down the main strip, watching the streets fill up as the sun starts going down. And there's a bar, and there's a bunch of people waiting outside this bar because they do live music performances there. And for those who don't know, Springfield has a very active live music scene, a very local music scene. So I see a girl standing outside of this bar smoking a cigarette, and I walk up to her and approach her, basically tell her my story. We get to talking. This girl offers to buy me a ticket to get into the show. Offers to let me hang out with all of her friends. And even goes as far as to offer to let me stay the night at her apartment. Now compare that to the Metro Detroit woman. Basically offended that I wouldn't pay for her drink. It's the small things like that that create the differences from one city to the next, one state, region, etc. And this experience, that happening, puts Springfield on this series. I end up going into the concert, hanging out with this girl and her friends. It was a great time, dancing, letting loose. The people in Springfield were just very down-to-earth, very open-minded, non-judgmental, and they just wanted to meet people and have a good time. Leaving Springfield was honestly hard. I didn't want to leave the next day, but things happen for a reason, and I end up leaving the next day. Once you get south of Springfield in Missouri, it's mostly rural until you get to Joplin. And in Joplin, it doesn't really seem like there's much going on anyway. Then you get into Oklahoma, and in the most northern parts of Oklahoma, you have just small rural towns, pretty much put there because of Route 66, and they're barely alive. You also have Indian reservations in that part of the state. I was camping on an Indian reservation unknowingly at a place called Kellyville. There's a campground called Hayburn Lake, and the campsites are on Sunset Park. So I set up my stuff. I'm expecting to spend the night alone, and a van rolls up. 4 guys jump out of the van, run up to me, tie me up, throw me in the back of the van, and kidnap me. I'm just kidding. That is not what this type of story is. What it is a minivan rolls up, 2 dudes hop out, and they start chilling at the campsite next to me. Offer to have me come over there, and I did, and I'm really glad I did, because me and these 2 dudes, they were Native Americans. We just cracked jokes, bullshitted, and hung out for the night, you know? Nothing serious, just very lighthearted, goofing around, like being stupid. And that's what I was missing on the road thus far, you know? A lot of things were very like serious, very deep, meaningful, whatnot, but you know, back home, like when I'm hanging out with my friends and family, I like to goof around, tell stupid jokes about poop, and you know, that's what I was able to do with these guys, and it was really a relief. And little interactions like that were the types of things that gave me the motivation and desire to keep going, especially after being alone for a certain amount of days at a time. Something like that really just fuels me. I left Kellyville, made my way into Oklahoma City. In Oklahoma City, there was nothing extremely interesting that happened there. It's a beautiful city. The main standout thing that happened to me in Oklahoma City was visiting the memorial place of where the bombings happened. And when I went over into that fountain, I didn't even take a picture. I didn't even take a video. I was hit with an eerie, dark, disturbing feeling. Something about that place sent shivers down my spine. And yes, you know, of course you're aware that this is a place where many people died. But something about that energy, that evil, that omniscient presence remains there to this day. The one positive part about that memorial site is something called the fence. And if you don't know what that is, look it up. But I'll put a little video clip of that in right here. I did not stay the night in Oklahoma City. I stayed the afternoon, and I continued southwest. Once you get southwest of Oklahoma City, there's really no major city until you get to Amarillo, Texas. And in Amarillo, Texas, there really isn't anything going on anyways. So I continue working my way through these small towns in Oklahoma, nearly overheating at one point. I'll put that clip in here. I took this video when I was literally about to pass out. I thought that I was going to die. So I made kind of a fucking stupid decision, and I chose to ride through the hottest hours of the day, through a portion of the road that pretty much has no services alongside for me to take a break. So I got about 5 miles, I'd say, until I can actually get to a place where I can take a break. Right now I'm just hanging out in the shade. Man, I am hot. It was a bad idea. Bad idea. But I'll be okay. One of these small towns that I stop in is called Sare, Oklahoma. And Sare is another Route 66 town that's barely alive, that has been completely ravaged by the methamphetamine epidemic. I'm sitting outside of a gas station that they got down there called a Hutch's. It's pretty much the biggest business in this town. And I'm sitting there waiting out the possibility of a thunderstorm, trying to decide if I'm gonna camp or what's gonna happen that night. And while I'm sitting out there, a woman comes out of the gas station with a case of beer, and she looks kind of like rough around the edges, you know. I would later find out what was so rough about this individual, but she looks kind of rough around the edges, but she's friendly and nice either way. And we're talking to one another, and she asks me if I want to hang out for a bit. And you know, I was skeptical at first, but all the strangers I had met up until that point had all been good to me. So I said, you know, what the hell? She said her apartment's right across the road. So we go across the road, and in these towns along Route 66, it's not uncommon to find abandoned motels that just couldn't survive with the creation of I-40. This was one of those abandoned motels, but somebody had bought the property and was renting out the rooms as studio and one-bedroom apartments. Sorry, I had to go inside and warm up for a minute. It's actually so cold that my phone froze and turned off. But that's not the first time that's happened to me before. So anyways, I end up going to this woman's apartment, and it was revealed that she was using methamphetamine. And in hindsight, it was also revealed to me that she was doing some sort of, I guess, some sort of business to support this habit that I'm not going to mention, but I'll let you figure that out. I was there for about an hour or so. She offered to make me food, let me shower, stay the night, and then she said that she had to leave. She said that she was going to sell some things, and that she'd be back in 45 minutes to an hour and a half, and that if she wasn't back, that means she got arrested. And she said, if I get arrested, please try to get me out of jail. And I said, how am I supposed to get you out of jail? You don't have a phone or anything. I don't know it. I don't know this town. She says, ask around for so-and-so. Everyone knows who he is, and he'll be able to get me out. And with that, she left. I waited in her apartment for about 20 minutes, and I was gone. I locked the door, and that was that. The woman was incredibly nice. She was incredibly generous and hospitable towards me. And I hope that one day, or possibly that she's turned her life around. I ended up staying the night at the city campground. They had a campground in Sare. And I continued through these rural towns. Going through the Panhandle of Texas, the only thing that really stands out to me was camping at this ministry in Groom, which was very interesting. It was a religious place. I guess it's very famous. I'll put a few clips of that in right here. So I made it here to Groom, Texas, to the ministry, and it's pretty amazing. The big giant cross and whatnot. And I'm gonna be camping out here tonight because they allow camping for cyclists only. So I'm pretty happy about that. Ran into some cyclists today that I met back in Springfield, Missouri. Ran into them in McLean, Texas. I guess supposedly they had gotten a U-Haul and did some of Oklahoma in a U-Haul. And we had lunch and I talked to them for a bit, and I decided to continue onward for the day to complete out probably around 50 miles. And it was hot and it was sunny, but I ended up catching a nice tailwind, and I am just really happy to be here. It's gonna be a nice, safe place to sleep tonight, and I'll be hanging out here probably for the rest of the night. So here they have the empty tomb. So I just got all my stuff packed up and my hammock taken down, and I'm about to be leaving the ministry. And I slept pretty good last night. The only thing is that around 5 o'clock in the morning, it got bone-chillingly cold. I mean, it was cold, and I ended up actually grabbing my sleeping pad and throwing it in the bottom of the hammock, and I was fine. But boy, I did not want to get up. I was tired and comfortable, but I got up and I threw the pad in the hammock, and everything was fine. It's getting warm again. The sun's coming out, so I'm about to take off here, head over to the convenience store and get some coffee. And the next big achievement on this journey was crossing into New Mexico. New Mexico was a place that I had wanted to visit for years. It had kind of been on my bucket list, the land of enchantment. And that's where I'm going to end part 4, and that's where part 5 is going to begin. As the trip progresses, I get better at filming myself, so I'll be able to put in more clips, and it'll probably be less storytelling like this. Today I was having a hell of a time with technical difficulties, being cold. The universe did not want me to film this today. So if it goes up, that means I was satisfied with what I did. But I just wanted to let you know that it was not easy. This is like my 4th time telling this story. So I hope you enjoy it. I hope that you come back for part 5. If you like the video, like it, unlike it, subscribe, unsubscribe, do whatever you feel, interact with it. I need feedback. And with that, I'll see you next time. halfway through Route 66. More than halfway through my trip. But it's been a hell of a fucking ride so far.